Standard Chartered becomes the first global bank to offer institutional Bitcoin and Ethereum trading. We talk about how we are seeing regulatory clarity coming towards the crypto industry, where, we are seeing mass adoption coming towards this industry. This right here is once again a perfect example of that. As we know, there's a lot of green lights coming to the financial industry, to help take the crypto market to the masses. And of course, we're starting to see that green light from regulators in the US to, start offering, crypto services to their clientele. And I think this is just the absolute beginning. Of course, Standard Chartered is one of the biggest banks across the globe. A very well-known bank, of course, more importantly in Europe. And yeah, they're offering these services. This just gives us a better understanding, as to what's going to happen, where they're going to be offering more assets, and it's going to become a norm. And I think we're going to see that shift happening, and I think that shift's going to happen much quicker than a lot of people think. But welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP holders. Cannot thank you guys enough for all your support. Obviously, if we're looking at it on a daily time frame, we did see a little bit of a retracement for the broader market, as stated to you guys before in my other updates. Nothing's going to go up straight forever in one line. We do see retracements, healthy corrections, part of the game before we continue to go towards the upside. So, we did see a little bit of a retracement as we did start off the week, totally normal. But as we are going into Tuesday morning, we are starting to see green across the market once again, which is amazing to see. As far as the price of XRP is concerned, $2.88, down about 3.2% in USD. But in Bitcoin compared, we're up 1.1%, with the valuation still holding really nicely above 170 billion, to be exact, $170.1 billion. Valuation approaching $10 billion, great to see. But as always, you guys know, just a quick disclaimer, anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So big stuff happening. Dormant Bitcoin whales sell. Whale sells $2.34 billion in Bitcoin via Galaxy Digital after 14 years. First ever sell move from address linked to 2011 OG. This is huge, guys. So pretty much what this means is, someone, early comers, 2011 era, when Bitcoin was literally dirt cheap. This costed them around $15,000 at that time to obtain all these Bitcoins. And now they have come out and sold $2.34 billion worth of BTC. Talk about crazy life-changing gains. I cannot imagine what they're going through, but of course, this is always interesting to bring up. We talk about how crypto is going, but imagine, the courage that it took this person to hold Bitcoin from there on to where it's at now, where Bitcoin, one single coin, is worth $120,000 a coin. Crazy to wrap my head around, because I've seen Bitcoin with my own eyes around $200 to $300 per coin. I cannot imagine what these guys probably feel when Bitcoin was nothing. Insane stuff. But take a look at this. Remember, the XRP token cannot be mined, and its quantity will constantly decrease, and everything that exists in a limited amount and is actively used becoming more expensive. Therefore, with the growth of the network, the XRP price will increase significantly. And with the likes of ETFs being approved, I think it is also going to increase the price. The way the XRP price is moving right now, of course, we have seen some big named companies that in the past month and a half have come out and publicly stated that they are raising funds to actually create their own XRP reserve. And imagine this becomes a norm where you see a lot of big entities doing something similar that does require capital, and that really tells you the demand factor for XRP is increasing. And believe it or not, it's increasing more than a lot of people realize. The price of XRP is on the neckline of breaking towards some yearly highs, and most importantly start heading towards all-time highs. Yet people still are not paying attention to that specific moment. And then this is before a spot ETF, and this is before an official statement coming out from the judge that this lawsuit is officially said and done and is behind us. And again, without even an IPO, big things happening, and we don't want to be ignoring this. But look at this. Nate also says, besides that, I think Vanguard should allow brokerage access to crypto ETFs. Here are my top 3 most strongly held beliefs on a category. BlackRock should absolutely file for spot XRP, Solana, etc. ETFs, crypto index ETF as well. Protect their current crypto ETF leadership position. And I personally still think, people are always looking at, BlackRock, the largest asset manager around the globe, is not filing for all these other coins, but we're seeing this happening, from their competitors. Believe it or not, they're well aware of this. I personally think they're moving strategically. Maybe they have a plan to do this. But I think it's inevitable. It just makes sense because with the likes of XRP, if you're comparing it with Ethereum, I can argue that XRP will have as much inflows as Ethereum because of the fact that, what it has going on for itself, the demand factor that it has for itself. I really, strongly believe that could happen. Do you think BlackRock just wants to leave that on the table? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I think it is inevitable that they're going to see this happen. But look, not too late for State Street, third largest ETF issuer, to enter category. Honestly, don't understand strategy here. Do they think they have somehow protecting gold ETFs? Schwab should file for launch spot ETFs. Why give advantage to Fidelity, their primary competitor? Literally what I just stated. All our competitors at the end of the day. Makes no sense for BlackRock to not come on board. I think they are, examining and, looking into it, but I think they're just waiting for the right opportunity. Do let me know in the comments as to what your personal thoughts are. But on July 22nd, will be a turning point for crypto, according to Caitlin. You guys can see crypto bank founder Caitlin Long says the July 22nd digital asset report from the Treasury, SEC, and the CFTC and others could change everything for crypto, which of course pretty much means the banks can offer crypto and hold crypto for their clientele. That was pretty much the news, and I totally agree that itself is revolutionary because, as I've given you guys a very big example, every time that you go into a large bank, you talk about crypto, these guys act like you're talking about some technology that they've never heard of or anything. But now these banks can start offering these services, which again is that pivot moment for people that don't really understand crypto, that don't really like a self-custody. This is where that game changer portion comes into play. And if you don't know, Caitlin Long, is an early Bitcoiner, in 2012, realized what Bitcoin was and, worked, I think was a director at Morgan Stanley, if I'm not mistaken. So, in the financial world, and saw the potential of BTC, created, her own, crypto bank, and rest has been history. And I cannot imagine what she also thinks about, this crazy, insane increase of BTC that we have seen. And that just tells you how far this industry has come. But on that note, ProShares has been approved to list its Ultra XRP ETF on the NYSE Arca, with trading set to begin by the end of this week. Big stuff happening. But let's take a look at what's happening with the price. So please ignore this right here. This was from my previous update. You're looking at the dominance, really pulling down, showing weakness. I mentioned in my previous update, if we go below the 64.16%, this could really bring in a lot of excitement for altcoins. BTC did see, push down to 116,400, but since then we have reclaimed back above 117,000. I stated in my other updates, you want to see Bitcoin kind of consolidating, finding a ground for itself, because if it's unable to do that, when there's not much support, price can drop much quicker than you can think. So it's important to, find a ground for itself, and, you want to start consolidating, and that's what Bitcoin needs to do. And I think it's very important for Bitcoin to kind of, consolidate at a certain price before heading more towards the upside. But if you're looking at XRP, it is about to obviously, touch that neckline at the $3 price point, but we did see a retracement right now. Right now we are, trying to break out of the key resistance from our yearly high, which was back in December of last year. That was the yearly high of that, year in 2024. And we hadn't retested that for years, but that was the yearly high. But of course, for 2025, the yearly high is set to be at $3.37. But we are coming across that exact same resistance, and I do personally believe that we could push out of that range thanks to the dominance continuing to show weakness. And if it continues to show more weakness, I am personally projecting that we do see that wick filling in, especially around the $3 price point, and start heading up to the all-time high zone. So far so good. Like what I'm seeing here. Of course, we want to take a look at it on an hourly perspective. A beautiful chart here. Of course, it has seen a retracement. So did the broader market. So XRP is no exception. It's going to see that, but we are starting to start to see the price pushing back up to this range, and I am targeting the $3 range. Which again itself is a move of about, you could say, around 3.79%. So holding really nicely, compared to some of the other coins. So I like what I'm seeing here. Thank you for all your support. If you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? We'll see you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.